What if everything you've been chasing your whole life wasn't what you truly needed? What if the success, the approval, the comfort you thought would make you feel complete were only distractions from something far deeper? We grow up with invisible scripts written by others, parents, teachers, society, telling us what a good life should look like. You work hard, you earn more, you collect achievements like trophies on a shelf, and yet, late at night, when it's just you and your thoughts, a quiet question whispers, "Is this really it?" For years, I ignored that whisper. I drowned it in busyness, in chasing the next thing, in convincing myself that if I just reached one more milestone, the emptiness would disappear. But emptiness doesn't go away by filling it with noise. It only grows heavier when you refuse to listen. And maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe you felt that subtle ache in your chest when you realize you're living someone else's definition of success. The truth is, most people spend their entire lives running on autopilot. They follow a path without ever stopping to ask if it's the right one. They confuse movement with progress, and in the process, they miss the moments that actually matter. That's why what I'm about to share with you is so important. Because if you can hear this now, if you can let it sink past the surface, you might save yourself years of wandering in the wrong direction. This isn't about quick fixes or empty hype. This is about waking up. It's about opening your eyes to the possibility that the life you've been handed isn't the life you have to keep living. The power to choose differently has always been in your hands, but fear has convinced you otherwise. Fear tells you it's too late. Fear says you're not ready. Fear thrives on your hesitation. But courage grows the second you take one small, deliberate step toward what you truly want. And here's the reward for staying with me until the very end. By the time we're done, you will see yourself differently. You will feel something shift inside you, a quiet but undeniable certainty that change is not just possible, it's necessary. You'll realize that the weight you've been carrying isn't yours to hold forever. You'll see the path that leads to a life that feels like your own, not a copy of someone else's dream. This is not a speech to entertain you. This is a message meant to shake you awake, to remind you that time is not infinite and your heart already knows the truth. Every second you keep living in a way that doesn't align with who you are is a second you never get back. So stay with me. Hear me out. Because in the next moments, we're going to talk about the choice that can change everything, starting right now. You already know the feeling of living in a way that doesn't match your deepest truth. It's the tension in your chest when you say yes to something you didn't want. It's the exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fix. It's the quiet frustration that builds when you watch yourself settle again and again for less than you deserve. That feeling is your life trying to get your attention. It's not there to punish you, it's there to wake you up. Every emotion you've been taught to suppress is actually a signal guiding you back to yourself. The more you ignore it, the louder it becomes. And eventually, if you keep turning away, you start to believe the lie that this is just the way life is. But life is not meant to be endured, it is meant to be lived. There's a difference between surviving and existing with a fire in your heart. Surviving is waking up to obligations you never questioned. Living is waking up to a purpose you chose with intention. And you have that choice right now. You've always had it. The world may have convinced you that your dreams are unrealistic, that you need to be practical, that wanting more makes you ungrateful. But those voices are not the voice of your soul. Your soul speaks through the quiet moments when you imagine something different. It speaks when you feel that pull toward a life that scares you because it's bigger than what you've known. Fear will tell you to wait. Fear will promise you the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect certainty before you act. But that moment will never come. The perfect plan doesn't exist. What does exist is this second, right here, where you get to decide to take one step closer to the life you were meant for. Change doesn't start with clarity. It starts with courage. Clarity comes after you've moved. Courage is the bridge that takes you there. And yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Growth always does. It is not danger, it's proof that you're expanding. The very sensations that make you want to turn back are the same ones that show you're on the right path. Every cell in your body has been wired for safety, not fulfillment. You have to train yourself to choose the unknown over the familiar when the familiar is keeping you small. You don't need permission. You don't need to wait for the world to validate your dreams. You are allowed to walk away from what no longer serves you. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to live a life that excites you, even if no one else understands it. One decision, one act of courage, can set off a chain of change that will ripple through every part of your existence. And that decision is yours to make right now. The life you want is already reaching for you, but it can only meet you at the level of your decisions. Every choice you make is a signal to yourself about what you believe you deserve. When you choose to stay in places that drain you, you affirm the belief that this is all you are worthy of. When you choose to step toward what excites and challenges you, you rewrite that belief entirely. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not filled with luck or waiting. It is filled with consistent acts of self-respect. And self-respect begins the moment you stop betraying what you know in your heart to be true. You are not here to prove your worth to the world. You are here to live from it. Your worth is not measured by your achievements, your income, or how many people approve of you. It is measured by the strength of your alignment with the truth inside you. The world rewards conformity because it is safe, predictable, and easy to control. But the life you're meant to live doesn't thrive in the safety of conformity. It thrives in the courage to be different, to be misunderstood, and to be unwavering in your vision, even when no one else can see it. The mind will tempt you to negotiate with your dreams. It will tell you to compromise, to take the smaller version, to wait until circumstances are perfect. But compromise with your dreams is self-abandonment in disguise. Every time you shrink to fit into a life that doesn't feel like yours, a part of you dies quietly inside. The pain you feel in those moments is not weakness. It is the evidence that your soul refuses to accept a life that is less than it deserves. True change happens when you stop asking for permission to want what you want. It happens when you stop explaining your decisions to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It happens when you choose to live in a way that feels right, even if it looks wrong to everyone else. This is the kind of decision that ignites transformation from the inside out. It will not be comfortable. It will not always make sense to others. But you will know you are on the right path because you will feel a deep, quiet peace within you, even when everything around you is uncertain. That peace is your compass. It will guide you when the road feels unclear. It will anchor you when fear tries to pull you back. And it will remind you that you are not here to survive in a life that feels hollow. You are here to rise into one that feels whole. The only question left is whether you will choose it. Every time you choose the path that scares you, you strengthen the part of yourself that refuses to settle. Fear loses its grip the moment you act in spite of it. It does not disappear before you begin. It fades because you began. The truth is, fear will always be there, whispering its warnings, trying to keep you small. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward, even with fear sitting in the passenger seat. The more you practice this, the more you realize fear has no real power except the power you give it. Growth is built in the moments where you break the cycle of hesitation. Every time you stop yourself from stepping forward, you reinforce the belief that the unknown is dangerous. But every time you take that step anyway, you send a new message to your mind. The unknown is where you grow. Your brain is wired to protect you, not to fulfill you. If you wait until it feels safe, you will wait forever. The life you want is not found in comfort. It is found in the discomfort of becoming someone new. You are far more capable than the version of yourself you've been living as. You have only scratched the surface of what you can do, who you can become, and the impact you can make. The gap between your potential and your current reality is closed not by massive leaps all at once, but by a relentless refusal to stop moving forward. Small, consistent actions create unstoppable momentum, and momentum creates transformation that feels inevitable. There will be days when it feels heavy. There will be moments when your progress feels invisible. But those moments are not a sign to quit. They are the exact points where most people give up. If you push through them, you will step into a space where your results compound and your effort begins to pay you back in ways you couldn't have predicted. The discipline to keep going when nothing seems to be happening is what separates those who change their lives from those who only talk about it. Your future self is watching you right now. Every choice you make is building them, shaping them, defining the life they will live. If you knew the strength, the freedom, and the joy that awaited you on the other side of this decision, you would not hesitate for another second. But you do not get to feel that life until you take the step toward it. The key is in your hands, and it always has been. You are not waiting for the world to open a door. You are realizing the door has been unlocked all along. Now it's time through it. The moment you decide to move forward, the universe responds. Opportunities you couldn't see before begin to appear, not because they suddenly exist, but because your mind is finally open enough to notice them. Possibility is always around you, but it hides from those who doubt themselves. The instant you claim your right to a bigger life, the world starts revealing the paths that lead to it. This is not luck, it is alignment. You cannot see the road meant for you while clinging to the one you've outgrown. Letting go is the hardest part. Not because the old life is better, but because it is familiar. The mind clings to the known, even when it hurts, because it fears the uncertainty of what's next. But freedom is found on the other side of that release. Every time you release something that no longer fits, be it an old habit, a limiting belief, or a toxic environment, you create space for something greater to take its place. The space you create is not emptiness. It is the invitation for your true life to arrive. Your identity is shaped by what you repeatedly allow. If you keep saying yes to things that drain you, you reinforce the identity of someone who accepts less than they deserve. But if you start saying yes only to what aligns with your vision, you transform into the person capable of living that vision. This is not about perfection, it's about direction. Every aligned choice pulls you closer to the life you want, and each misaligned choice pulls you back toward the life you no longer want to live. The challenge is holding your standard when it feels easier to compromise. There will be moments when the old patterns call you back, when comfort tries to lure you in with promises of ease. But comfort without growth is a slow form of decay. You are not here to shrink into the smallness of what is easy. You are here to expand into the fullness of what is possible. That expansion will stretch you, test you, and require more of you than you've ever given. But it will also give you more than you've ever had. The life you desire is not an accident. It is a direct reflection of the standards you set, the actions you take, and the limits you refuse to accept. Every day is a chance to prove to yourself that you are willing to fight for the life that feels right in your soul. Not someday, not when it's convenient, now. Because every moment you delay is a moment you never get back, and every moment you choose is a step toward becoming the person you were always meant to be. You will always have two voices inside you. One will tell you to stay where you are, to avoid the risk, to protect what's familiar. The other will urge you to rise, to stretch, to walk toward the unknown with trust. The first voice is loud because it echoes every fear you've ever absorbed. The second is quiet because it speaks only in truth, and truth does not need to shout to be real. Your life will follow whichever voice you choose to obey. Most people spend their lives listening to the loud one, convincing themselves that it's wisdom, when it's really just fear disguised as safety. The quiet voice, the one you sometimes ignore, is the one that leads to freedom. It's the whisper that says you're capable of more. It's the pull you feel towards something that doesn't yet exist in your reality but lives vividly in your heart. You don't have to know exactly how to get there. You just have to be willing to listen and act before it fades into background noise. If you silence that voice long enough, it doesn't disappear, but it becomes harder to hear beneath the static of a life you never wanted. The real danger is not failing. The real danger is living so cautiously that you never truly live at all. You can survive years like this, going through motions, meeting expectations, checking boxes, but survival without purpose is a slow erosion of your spirit. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to remember what it felt like to want something deeply. You were not made to numb yourself into acceptance. You were made to burn with the energy of becoming. That fire inside you is not a coincidence. It's the sign that there is more for you than what you have now. It's the reminder that your dreams are not fantasies. They are previews of what's possible when you commit to them. The more you honor that fire, the stronger it burns. The more you ignore it, the dimmer it feels, until one day you mistake the darkness for reality. But even then, one choice can spark it back to life. You don't need to see the entire path before you take the first step. You don't need the approval of others to validate your direction. You only need the willingness to trust yourself more than you trust your fear. Because fear will always have 1,000 reasons to keep you still, and your soul only needs one reason to move. It was never meant to stay in the same place. Every breath you take is another chance to turn toward the life that calls you. That call will never stop. It's only waiting for you to answer. The decision to answer that call is the most important choice you will ever make. It is the moment you stop living by default and start living by design. Most people wait for circumstances to change before they take action, but the truth is, circumstances shift only when you do. The external world mirrors your internal state. If you live in hesitation, your life will give you more reasons to hesitate. If you live in courage, your life will give you more opportunities to rise. Everything you desire is built from the energy you choose to carry. The mind will try to trick you into believing that the gap between you and your dream is too wide. It will remind you of every failure, every moment you felt small, every time you doubted yourself. But those moments were never meant to define you. They were meant to prepare you. The weight you've carried has strengthened you for the path ahead. You are not starting from nothing. You are starting from every experience that has shaped you into someone capable of more than you realize. You don't have to take every step perfectly. You don't have to know how it will all work out. You only need to be relentless in your commitment to keep moving. Momentum is built not in grand gestures, but in the quiet discipline of showing up for yourself day after day. Even the smallest step forward carries more power than 1,000 intentions left undone. Every action tells the universe you are serious, and the universe responds to seriousness with opportunity. When fear tells you to stop, remind yourself that fear's job is not to tell you the truth. It's to keep you still. Stillness has its place in reflection, but when it becomes a way of living, it becomes a cage. The longer you stay in that cage, the more you begin to believe the bars are permanent. But they were never locked. The door has always been open. You just have to walk through, even if your hands shake, even if your voice trembles. There is a version of you on the other side of that door who is waiting to be discovered. That version is stronger, freer, and more alive than you have ever felt. They already exist. You simply haven't met them yet because you've been standing in the doorway instead of stepping through. The moment you cross that threshold, you will not only meet them, you will become them. And once you do, you will never go back to the smaller life you once knew. Because once you have tasted what it feels like to live fully awake, nothing else will ever feel enough. When you begin to live fully awake, the world around you starts to look different. You see possibilities where you once saw limitations. You notice opportunities that were invisible before because you were too focused on the obstacles. Your energy shifts, and that shift changes the way you show up in every part of your life. People feel it. Situations respond to it. Doors open not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because you have stepped into the mindset of someone who walks through them without waiting for permission. This is the point where excuses lose their power. You can no longer hide behind the idea that you're not ready or that the timing isn't right. You understand that readiness is not something you wait for. It's something you create through action. Every challenge becomes less of a threat and more of a test, an invitation to prove to yourself that you can handle what you once thought you couldn't. And with each test you pass, your confidence grows, not the fragile confidence built on approval or validation, but the unshakable kind that comes from knowing you faced your own fears and moved forward anyway. There will still be moments of doubt. You will still hear the voice that tells you to turn back. But doubt is no longer the dictator of your life. It becomes background noise. You learn to move with it, to carry it without letting it control the direction you take. This is strength, not the absence of fear, but the ability to keep walking even while it whispers in your ear. The deeper you go into this way of living, the more you realize that your limits were never real. They were boundaries drawn by old beliefs, by moments in your past when you felt powerless. But powerlessness is a perception, not a fact. The truth is, you have always had the ability to choose differently, to push further, to demand more from yourself and from life. The difference now is that you no longer need proof before you act. You understand that proof comes as a result of action, not before it. And when you live from this place, life stops feeling like something that happens to you and starts feeling like something you are actively creating. You no longer wake up wondering if today will bring what you want. You wake up determined to bring it into existence yourself. You recognize that the same energy you once used to maintain a life that didn't inspire you can be redirected into building one that does. The power was never missing. It was always in your hands, waiting for you to decide you were ready to use it. And now, that decision is no longer optional. It's the only path forward. The only path forward is the one you choose with full commitment, the one you refuse to abandon when it tests you. Commitment is not a feeling. It is a decision that remains when the feelings fade. Excitement will get you started, but discipline will keep you moving when excitement disappears. There will be days when the weight of the journey feels heavier than you imagined. Those are the days that shape you. Those are the moments that separate those who wish for change from those who become it. When you push through the resistance, you create a new identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who tries, you see yourself as someone who follows through. That shift in identity changes everything. It changes the way you approach obstacles because you stop questioning whether you can overcome them. You already know you will. You've proven it to yourself over and over again. Your faith in your own ability becomes unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Strength is not built in comfort. It is built in the moments where you feel like you have nothing left to give and you give anyway. It is built when you stop negotiating with yourself about whether you will keep going. It is built when you do the work simply because you said you would. Each time you follow through, you're telling yourself a story about who you are, and that story becomes the foundation of your reality. The truth is, the journey is not supposed to be easy. If it were, everyone would be living their highest potential. The difficulty is not a sign you're on the wrong path, it's proof that you're on a path worth taking. The resistance you feel is not there to stop you. It's there to prepare you for what you've asked for. Without it, you would not be ready to hold the life you're building. The process will strip away what is not essential. It will force you to let go of habits, beliefs, and even relationships that cannot survive at the level you are rising to. This is not loss, it is refinement. You are becoming a clearer, stronger version of yourself, one who no longer carries the weight of what doesn't belong. And as you shed what is false, you make room for what is true. You are not just moving toward a destination. You are becoming the kind of person for whom that destination is natural. This is the real reward, not just the life you create, but the person you become in creating it. That transformation is permanent. Once you have seen your own strength, once you have lived in alignment with your deepest truth, there is no going back. You are no longer the same, and you never will be again. Once you have crossed that line within yourself, you stop looking back for validation. You no longer need to prove to anyone why you've chosen this path, because the evidence is in how you feel when you live it. There is a deep calm that comes from knowing you are no longer betraying your own potential. That calm is not the absence of challenge, it is the presence of certainty. You may not know every step ahead, but you know you will take them. That knowing changes the way you carry yourself. You move differently. You think differently. You speak from a place of conviction that cannot be faked. Conviction is magnetic. It draws opportunities, people, and circumstances that match the energy you hold. You don't have to chase approval when you are anchored in your truth. It finds you naturally. This is the shift from forcing to allowing, not because you're waiting passively, but because your alignment does the work for you. Every action you take from this place carries more weight. It has power because it comes from clarity, and clarity cuts through the noise of uncertainty like a blade. Clarity does not mean you are immune to doubt. It means doubt no longer rules you. You see it for what it is, a shadow that cannot survive in the light of action. Every time you choose to move instead of freeze, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than the illusions that once held you back. And with each proof, your identity solidifies. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to become. You see yourself as someone who already is, simply refining the expression of it. The world around you will adjust to the version of you that you insist on being. If you hold your standard, life will rise to meet it. If you lower it, life will mirror that too. This is why discipline matters. It is not punishment, it is protection. It protects your vision from being eroded by moments of weakness. It keeps you aligned when distractions try to pull you off course. It reminds you that your future is built in the decisions you make when no one is watching. This way of living demands presence. You cannot drift through your days and expect transformation. You must be deliberate. You must meet each moment as if it carries the seed of your future, because it does. Every thought, every action, every choice plants something, and the harvest will always match the seeds you've sown. Once you understand this, there is no such thing as an unimportant moment. Every second becomes an opportunity to align, to build, to become. And when you live this way, life stops being something you wait to change. It becomes something you are changing right now with every breath you take. Every breath you take is proof that you still have time, but it is also a reminder that time is not endless. The life you want will not wait for you to feel ready. Opportunities are not permanent. They are moments that open and close, often without warning. The question is whether you will step into them or watch them pass by while convincing yourself there will be another chance. The truth is, no moment repeats in the exact same way. Once it is gone, it is gone. This is why hesitation costs more than failure. You can recover from failure. You cannot recover the moments you never acted on. Action is the only language the future understands. You cannot talk your way into the life you desire. You must move toward it. Every step sends a signal that you are willing to meet it halfway. And life always responds to movement. Even the smallest action can set off a chain of events that shifts everything. The problem is, most people underestimate small actions because they expect change to be dramatic. But transformation is built quietly, piece by piece, until the day it becomes impossible to ignore. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. You do not have to burn yourself out in a burst of effort. You have to keep showing up long after the initial excitement fades. Consistency turns hope into evidence. It rewires your mind to trust yourself. When you keep promises to yourself, you no longer need to rely on willpower. You begin to operate from identity. And once something becomes who you are, it no longer requires negotiation. You simply do it. The shift from wanting to becoming is the point where everything changes. Wanting keeps you in longing. Becoming moves you into alignment. And alignment is powerful. It pulls the right circumstances toward you without you having to force them. You stop chasing and you start attracting because you are finally living as the version of yourself who is ready to receive. This is not magic. It is the natural result of living in harmony with your deepest truth. But harmony does not happen by accident. It is the result of conscious choices made over and over again, even when no one notices. It is forged in the quiet moments when you choose growth over comfort, truth over approval, progress over perfection. These choices may seem small in isolation, but together they reshape everything. Your life will always rise to the level of your standards. If you hold them high, you will rise with them. If you lower them, you will sink to match. The decision is always yours. Every second you breathe is another chance to choose the higher path. And one day, if you keep choosing it, you will look back and realize you have become everything you once dreamed of being. When you become everything you once dreamed of being, the way you see life changes forever. You no longer measure success by what you have, but by who you are when no one is watching. The quiet confidence that comes from living in alignment cannot be bought or faked. It is earned through every choice you made when it would have been easier to choose differently. This is the kind of power that stays with you no matter what happens around you. Circumstances can shift, challenges can appear, but your foundation is unshakable because it is built on truth. Living this way means you no longer fear losing what you have because you know you can rebuild anything from within. You are no longer dependent on external conditions to feel secure. Your security comes from the fact that you trust yourself to adapt, to endure, to rise no matter what. That trust is freedom. It frees you from the constant anxiety of trying to control everything because you no longer need control to feel certain. You know that you will find a way, and that knowing makes you unstoppable. The world responds differently to someone who is no longer negotiating with their own potential. You stop attracting situations that test whether you believe in yourself and start attracting situations that expand what you believe is possible. Life moves from testing your foundation to building upon it. This is when growth accelerates, not because the path becomes easier, but because you stop wasting energy doubting whether you belong on it. From here, your vision expands. You start to see possibilities that are bigger than anything you previously imagined, because you are no longer filtering your dreams through the lens of limitation. You think beyond survival, beyond comfort, and into the territory of impact. You begin to ask not just what you want to achieve, but who you want to become in the process, and how you can leave everything better than you found it. This shift takes you from living for yourself to living as a force that uplifts everything you touch. But none of this happens by accident. It is the direct result of refusing to settle, of meeting each moment with the intention to grow. It comes from recognizing that your life is a reflection of your choices and choosing to make each one count. Every day you have the power to decide whether you will repeat yesterday or create something new. That power is not theoretical, it is immediate. It is alive in you right now, waiting for you to use it. And when you use it consistently, something extraordinary happens. The gap between who you are and who you want to be closes until there is no gap at all. You are living the life you once only imagined, and you realize the journey was never about becoming someone else. It was about becoming fully, unapologetically yourself. When you are unapologetically yourself, you stop living according to the expectations that once controlled you. The weight of comparison falls away because you finally understand that your path is not meant to look like anyone else's. You are no longer chasing an image or a standard set by someone else's definition of success. Instead, you are living from a place that feels real, and that realness is where your strength comes from. It is not about being perfect, it is about being authentic. And authenticity is magnetic. It pulls the right people, the right opportunities, and the right moments toward you without force. This is where peace begins to replace pressure. You no longer feel the constant need to prove yourself because your worth is no longer in question. You stop making decisions from fear of judgment and start making them from alignment with your values. This alignment becomes your compass, guiding you through uncertainty with a quiet confidence that is stronger than any external validation. You can feel when something is right for you, even if it makes no sense to anyone else. And you trust that feeling more than you trust the noise of outside opinions. When you live in this state, your actions carry a different weight. They are not scattered or reactive, they are deliberate. Every move you make is infused with purpose. You no longer waste energy on paths that do not lead to where you want to go. You know when to walk away, when to say no, and when to hold your ground. And in doing so, you create space for the life you actually want to live, instead of filling it with things you never truly wanted in the first place. This clarity also changes the way you face challenges. Setbacks no longer feel like personal failures. They feel like part of the process. You see them as opportunities to refine your approach rather than reasons to question your ability. This mindset turns obstacles into fuel. Every difficulty you overcome reinforces the truth that you are capable of far more than you once believed. The fear that used to paralyze you becomes the signal that you are stepping into a new level of growth. The deeper you live in alignment with yourself, the less you are shaken by the chaos around you. You no longer rely on life to be calm in order to feel steady. Your stability comes from within, from the unshakable truth that you are exactly where you are supposed to be, and that certainty allows you to move boldly, to take risks without being crushed by the fear of what might go wrong. Because you know that no matter what happens, you will continue to rise. You will continue to grow. You will continue to choose the life that calls to you, fully, fiercely, and without apology. The moment you choose to live fully without apology is the moment you step into true freedom. Freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It is the presence of choice. It is the realization that you are no longer bound by the limits you once accepted as truth. The rules you lived by, the ceilings you believed in, the boundaries you thought were fixed, all of them dissolve when you recognize they were only ever constructs of the mind. And once you see them for what they are, you can never unsee them. This kind of freedom demands courage, because it also demands ownership. You can no longer hide behind the excuses that once shielded you from action. There is no one else to blame, no external force to wait on. The life you have is the result of the choices you make and the ones you avoid. Owning that truth is both confronting and empowering. It strips away the illusion that someone else holds the key to your future and places that key firmly in your own hands. Ownership is power. It means you are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. It means you decide how you will respond, how you will move forward, how you will shape the meaning of every experience you encounter. And when you take that power fully, you stop living reactively. You stop drifting with the current and start steering your own course. This is not about controlling every detail. It is about deciding your direction and refusing to abandon it. From this place, challenges lose their ability to define you. They may slow you down, but they cannot stop you. Every obstacle becomes part of the proof that you are capable of holding the life you are building. And with each one you overcome, your confidence expands until it becomes a quiet certainty. You no longer need to ask whether you can do something. You know you can, because you have done it before and you will do it again. This certainty changes the way you dream. You stop asking what is realistic and start asking what is possible. You stop filtering your vision through the limits of your past and start creating from the limitless space of your future. The dreams you once thought were too big now feel like the natural next step. And as you take them, you inspire others, not by telling them what to do, but by showing them what is possible when you choose yourself fully. You begin to realize that the journey was never about reaching a single point. It was about becoming the kind of person who keeps expanding, who keeps rising, who keeps choosing growth over comfort, truth over fear, and possibility over limitation. This is what it means to live without apology. And once you start, there is no going back. When you reach the point where you no longer shrink yourself to fit into the expectations of others, you begin to experience life in its purest form. You stop living through the lens of approval and start living through the lens of alignment. Approval is fragile. It can be given today and taken tomorrow. Alignment is unshakable because it is rooted in your deepest truth. It does not rely on anyone else's validation. It is not concerned with trends, opinions, or the shifting tides of what is acceptable. It is the solid ground beneath your feet when the world feels unstable. Living in alignment means you stop betraying yourself for temporary comfort. It means you refuse to silence your voice just to keep the peace. It means you will walk away from what does not serve you, even if it costs you familiarity, even if it costs you acceptance. Because what you gain in return is worth infinitely more. You gain yourself. You gain the ability to look in the mirror and know you are living as the person you were meant to be. That kind of integrity is priceless, and it cannot be bought or faked. The cost of not living this way is far greater than the discomfort of change. The cost is a quiet erosion of your spirit. It is the slow fading of your energy, the dimming of your fire, the sense that life is passing by while you play small. You may avoid conflict, but you cannot avoid the gnawing feeling that you are meant for more. That feeling will not go away because it is your own potential calling you forward. And ignoring it is the heaviest burden you can carry. There comes a time when you have to decide that your life is worth the discomfort of growth, that your future is worth the risk of being misunderstood, that your dreams are worth the discipline it takes to protect them. When you make that decision, something shifts inside you. The hesitation that once held you back begins to dissolve, replaced by a quiet determination. You stop asking for permission to exist as your fullest self because you realize you already have all the permission you need. This is the space where real transformation happens, not in waiting for the perfect conditions, but in creating them through the choices you make every single day. You choose to speak when it would be easier to stay silent. You choose to try when it would be easier to quit. You choose to trust yourself when it would be easier to doubt. And with every choice, you become more of who you were meant to be. That is the reward for living in alignment, becoming the truest, boldest version of yourself, no matter who is watching. When you begin to live as your truest self, you also begin to notice the invisible chains you've worn for years. Chains made of fear, doubt, and the quiet pressure to be what others expect. You see how many choices you made not because they were right for you, but because they were safe. You see how often you stayed quiet when your voice could have changed everything. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That awareness becomes a turning point, because you realize that every chain you've carried was never locked. You were always free to set them down. Freedom is not something someone else gives you. It's something you claim by refusing to live small. It's in the way you stand your ground when your truth is challenged. It's in the way you refuse to shrink your dreams to match someone else's comfort. It's in the way you make choices that scare you because you know they will stretch you. Freedom is the courage to step into the unknown, trusting that you will find your footing as you go. That courage is not loud or reckless, it is quiet, steady, and unshakable. But claiming that freedom requires you to stop living for the version of yourself that only exists to please others. It requires letting go of the life you've outgrown, even when it's familiar, even when it's all you've known. Familiarity is not the same as fulfillment. Comfort is not the same as joy. You can sit in a room where nothing challenges you and still feel empty. You can have people around you who like the version of you that asks for nothing and still feel unseen. Freedom demands you walk away from those illusions, because staying will cost you the life you are capable of living. The path forward will test you. There will be moments where your old patterns call you back, moments when fear whispers that you are safer where you were. But you cannot go back to who you were once you've tasted the possibility of who you could be. Every step toward your truth strengthens you. Every time you choose what aligns with your heart over what is convenient, you become harder to break, and that strength will carry you through the days when the vision feels distant. This is where transformation takes root. It's not in a single grand decision, but in the accumulation of daily choices that reflect who you really are. You build a life not by wishing for freedom, but by living in a way that proves you are already free. You stop asking life to be easier and start becoming stronger. You stop waiting for permission and start giving it to yourself. And in that space, you realize the truth you've been searching for was never out there. It was always inside you, waiting to be claimed. When you begin to understand that the limits you've lived with were never absolute, something shifts deep within you. You stop seeing them as walls and start seeing them as doors. The difference is that walls keep you trapped, but doors can be opened. Most people never test the handle. They assume it's locked because it always looked that way. But the truth is, life rarely locks the doors. We lock them ourselves by believing we can't turn them, by convincing ourselves that what's on the other side isn't meant for us. The moment you stop accepting those limits as facts is the moment your world expands. This is where the real battle begins, not with the world, but with your own mind. The mind loves familiarity. It loves patterns it can predict, even when those patterns cause pain. That's why growth feels so uncomfortable. It's not because you're doing something wrong, it's because you're rewriting the code your mind has been running for years. And every time you challenge that old code, your mind resists, whispering doubts, showing you every possible failure, pulling you toward the comfort of the known. But if you push through that resistance, if you keep moving forward even when it feels like walking through fire, you rewire yourself for courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the mastery of it. It's standing in the storm and realizing you do not need it to end for you to move. You can take steps in the rain. You can climb while the wind is against you. You can speak when your voice shakes. Each time you do, you send a new message to yourself that fear is not your ruler, that doubt is not your destiny, that the weight you thought was holding you down is only as heavy as you decide to carry. And here lies the most liberating truth. You do not have to feel ready to begin. Waiting for readiness is just another way of delaying your life. You become ready by acting, by stepping forward when your heart pounds, by proving to yourself that you are more capable than your fear would ever admit. Action is the alchemy that turns hesitation into momentum. Action transforms uncertainty into clarity. Action makes the impossible not just possible, but inevitable. Your future is shaped by the moments you choose to step through the door instead of staring at it. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you create a life that reflects your true potential. You stop living as a prisoner of your own hesitation and start living as the architect of your own freedom. The door is still there, waiting. The handle is in front of you. All that remains is the decision to turn it. And the moment you do, you will never again mistake a limit for a wall.